Before we begin, make sure you're somewhere quiet. Turn off the lights. Put on your headphones. Because the stories you're about to hear aren't just scary. These are the kinds of experiences people don't talk about. If you enjoy true horror stories, unsettling encounters, and disturbing events that happen to real people, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Now, let's begin. Summer nights always felt different in our town. Not peaceful, just quiet in a way that made you too aware of everything. It was the kind of heat that made sleeping impossible unless every window in the house was open. By midnight, almost the entire neighborhood had screens pushed up, curtains pulled aside, box fans humming in dark bedrooms. You could hear cicadas screaming in the trees, frogs croaking near the creek, and the distant laughter of teenagers wandering around with nothing better to do. That was the night everything started. The first thing that woke me wasn't a sound. It was the absence of one. The fan in my room was still spinning, but the cicadas outside had gone completely silent. I remember opening my eyes and thinking how strange it was, like the world had paused mid-breath. Then I heard footsteps. Slow. Bare. On asphalt. I sat up in bed, instantly sweating, not just from the heat. My bedroom window was wide open, and from where I was lying, I could see the streetlight outside casting a weak orange glow onto the road. The footsteps weren't rushing. They weren't sneaking either. They sounded deliberate. Each step landed with weight, like whoever it was wanted to be heard. I leaned closer to the window, careful not to let the bed creak, and peered out. A man was walking down the middle of the street. No shirt. No shoes. Just dark shorts hanging loose on his frame. His skin looked pale under the streetlight, almost grey, and his head was tilted slightly downward, as if he were studying the road with intense concentration. That alone wouldn't have scared me. What scared me was the way he stopped. Right in front of my house. He stood there for several seconds, completely still. Then his head slowly turned upward, too slowly, in a way that made my stomach knot, and he looked directly at my window. I dropped back instantly, heart slamming against my ribs. I told myself I was overreacting. It was probably just some drunk guy walking home. Summer brought out weird behavior all the time. Still, I stayed frozen, barely breathing, listening. The footsteps started again. But they didn't move away. They moved closer. The sound shifted from asphalt to grass. I realized, with a sharp spike of fear, that he was walking up my front lawn. That's when I heard it. A soft tapping. Not on the door. On the side of the house. Tap. 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 Each one spaced perfectly apart. I slid off the bed and crept toward my bedroom door, careful not to make a sound. My parents' room was across the hall, their door cracked open, light from the hallway nightlight spilling inside. Before I could whisper for them, the tapping stopped. Silence returned, heavy and suffocating. Then, from somewhere outside, came a voice. It was low. Calm. Almost friendly. Hey, it said softly. I know you're awake. My blood turned cold. That voice wasn't near the front door anymore. It was directly beneath my window. I backed away slowly, every instinct screaming at me to run, but my legs felt weak. The voice spoke again, louder this time. You left your window open. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Seconds passed. Maybe minutes. Then footsteps moved away again, retreating across the lawn and back onto the street. I stayed awake until sunrise. The next morning, my mom mentioned something strange over breakfast. Did you hear about the Johnsons? She asked. I shook my head, my mouth dry. They woke up to a man standing in their daughter's room last night, she said. Window was open. He didn't touch her. Just stood there watching. My spoon slipped from my hand. According to the police, it happened to 6 houses that night. All on the same street. All with open windows. All between midnight and 3 a.m. Every family reported the same thing. A man with no shoes. No shirt. No forced entry. He never ran. Never spoke, except to one person. Me. They never caught him. But every summer since then, when the heat gets unbearable and the cicadas start screaming, nobody on that street opens their windows anymore. Because sometimes, late at night, people still hear footsteps walking slowly down the road. Bare. Unhurried. Listening. I was 16 the summer it happened, old enough to be trusted alone but still young enough to believe that nothing truly bad could happen in our neighborhood. It was late July, one of those nights where the heat lingered even after the sun went down. The air felt thick, heavy, like you were breathing through damp fabric. I was home alone while my parents attended a wedding out of town, and I planned to stay up late playing video games with the windows open. At around 11:30 p.m., I heard something that didn't make sense. An ice cream truck. At first, I thought I was imagining it. Ice cream trucks didn't run at night, especially not on weekdays. But the sound was unmistakable, that slow, warped melody drifting through the darkness, slightly off-key, like the speaker was damaged. I muted the TV and listened. The music grew louder. It was moving down my street. I walked to the front window and pulled the curtain back just enough to peek out. Sure enough, there it was. An old white ice cream truck, paint-chipped and yellowed with age, crawling along the road with its headlights off. The only light came from a dim bulb above the service window, flickering like it was about to die. Something felt wrong immediately. There were no kids outside. No parents. No people at all. And yet the truck stopped. Right in front of my house. The music cut off abruptly, leaving an unnatural silence behind. Then the service window slid open with a metallic screech. A man leaned out. He looked too old to be running an ice cream truck. His face was deeply lined, his eyes sunken and shadowed. He wore a stained white apron, and his smile was stretched too wide, like he wasn't used to using it. He rang the bell once. Ding. I stepped away from the window, heart pounding. I told myself to ignore it. If I didn't respond, he'd leave. Instead, I heard a knock. Not on the door. On the window. I froze. The knock came again, gentle, almost polite. I slowly approached and peeked through the curtain. The man was standing on my porch now. Up close, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. His shoes were soaked. Not with water. With something dark. He tilted his head slightly and spoke through the glass. "Your parents said you liked chocolate," he said. I hadn't told anyone my parents were gone. I stumbled backward, grabbing my phone, my hand shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I dialed my mom, but the call wouldn't connect. No signal. Outside, the man sighed softly, like he was disappointed. "That's okay," he said. "I can wait." He stepped off the porch and walked back to the truck. I locked every door. Every window. I turned off the lights and hid in my parents' bedroom, holding a baseball but I barely knew how to swing. The music started again. But this time, it was slower. Distorted. Wrong. I peeked through the bedroom window and watched as the truck began rolling, not away from my house, but back and forth in front of it. Slowly. Repeatedly. Like pacing. Around 1 a.m., the music stopped again. Then I heard something that made my skin crawl. A child's voice. "Mister," it called softly from outside. My mom said I could get one. I pressed my hands over my ears. The voice continued, getting closer to the house, circling it. "Mister? I have money." I knew, deep down, that there was no child. The voice cracked occasionally, slipping into something lower, older. At 2:17 a.m., the truck finally drove away. The next morning, police were everywhere. A boy from 3 streets over had gone missing. His bedroom window was open. His parents swore they heard ice cream music sometime after midnight but didn't think anything of it. They found the truck abandoned 2 days later in a wooded area outside town. Inside the freezer were melted wrappers. No ice cream. Just children's shoes. I never told anyone about that night. But every summer, when it gets unbearably hot, and the nights stretch too long, I still hear that warped melody in my dreams. And sometimes, when I wake up, my phone is ringing. No caller ID. Just a soft voice on the other end saying, "I saved you a chocolate one." I grew up spending my summers in a rural town so small it didn't even show up properly on most maps. There was one grocery store, one gas station, and one thing everyone warned you about without ever explaining properly. The lake. It was called Miller's Lake, though no one alive remembered who Miller was. The water was dark year-round, even during the brightest summer days, and the surface was always unnaturally still. No ripples. No birds landing on it. No fish jumping. Every adult told the same rule to every kid. Don't swim after sunset. No reason given. Just that. The summer I turned 17, I broke that rule. It was late June, the kind of summer night where the air buzzed with insects and the sky stayed faintly purple long after the sun disappeared. My friends and I were bored, restless, and stupid in the way only teenagers can be. There were 4 of us, me, my cousin Aaron, a girl named Melissa, and her younger brother Jonah. Jonah was 15 and annoying, but he begged to come along. We gave in. We parked near the dirt path leading down to the lake around 10:45 p.m. The moon was bright, casting a pale reflection across the water that looked less like moonlight and more like a thin layer of fog floating on the surface. Right away, something felt off. The usual night sounds were gone. No crickets. No frogs. Just silence. Jonah joked about it, laughing too loudly. "Feels like a horror movie," he said. Aaron told him to shut up. We stripped down to our shorts and stepped into the water. It was freezing. Not cold lake freezing, wrong freezing. Like the water hadn't absorbed any heat all day. I remember thinking it felt deeper than usual too, even though we were only a few steps in. Melissa was the first to react. "Did you feel that?" she asked. "What?" I said. Something brushed my leg. Aaron laughed and splashed water at her. "It's weeds." But there weren't any weeds near the shore. Everyone knew that. Still, we kept going. By the time the water reached our waists, Jonah stopped. "I don't like this," he said quietly. The moonlight reflection started to distort. Not ripple, bend. Like something was moving just beneath the surface, slowly circling us. Then we heard it. A splash. Far out in the lake. Single. Heavy. Like something large had just entered the water. We all froze. Another splash followed, closer this time. Aaron whispered, "Someone else swimming." "No," Melissa said. "No one comes here at night." The water around my legs tightened. That's the only way I can describe it. It didn't grab me, it pressed against me, like invisible hands closing in. Jonah screamed. Something yanked his leg underwater. He went down instantly, no thrashing, no struggle, just gone. Melissa lunged forward, screaming his name, but Aaron grabbed her and dragged her backward. The water erupted where Jonah had been, churning violently for a few seconds before going still again. Too still. We ran. None of us looked back. We didn't stop running until we reached the car, breathless and shaking. Melissa collapsed onto the gravel, sobbing uncontrollably. We called 911. Search teams arrived within an hour. Divers went in at dawn. They found Jonah's body that afternoon. Officially, he drowned. Unofficially, the divers refused to go back in the water after the first search. One of them threw up on the shore. Another quit his job 2 weeks later. At Jonah's funeral, Melissa's mother whispered something I'll never forget. "It's awake again." No one corrected her. Years passed. I moved away. Tried to forget. Then last summer, I came back to town to visit my parents. That night, I couldn't sleep. The heat was unbearable, and around midnight, I heard a sound drifting through my open window. Splash. Slow. Deliberate. I checked my phone. 2:13 a.m. I drove to the lake without thinking, like something was pulling me there. The moonlight reflected off the water exactly the way I remembered. But this time, I wasn't alone. There were footprints along the shore. Barefoot. Leading into the water. And standing at the edge, ankle deep, was a figure I recognized instantly. Jonah. Or something wearing him. His skin looked bloated, pale, stretched too tight. His eyes were open, glassy, and wrong. His mouth moved slowly, like he was struggling against the water still filling his lungs. He spoke. "Don't leave," he said. "It gets lonely." The water behind him bulged upward, like something massive was rising just beneath the surface. I ran. The next morning, the news reported another drowning. A man in his 30s. Found standing in the lake. No signs of struggle. They said he must have walked in willingly. Every summer, someone does. And every summer, the lake stays perfectly still. Like it's satisfied.